of the team here at HeadHunt, we would like to wish you a happy, prosperous, and healthy Year of the Tiger. Now, we are going to wait for a couple more seconds for more people to sign in, so please bear with us. And in the meantime, please make yourselves comfortable. Great, more people are signing in, so I think we are ready to begin. Good afternoon and welcome to the Masters Experience Series brought to you by HeadHunt in partnership with ESSEC Business School. My name is Tammy and I'm your host for today. Broadcasting live at ESSEC, we have with us Mark, who will be opening the session and introducing us on the EMBA APAC program offered by ESSEC. Thereafter, we will have Professor Cedomir Nestorovic, who will be sharing on the topic of the pandemic's impact on international relations. Now, before I hand over the time to Mark, please note that there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to type in your questions at any time during the presentation. Please also note that we will be conducting our feedback poll at the end of the session, so please stay with us throughout. Now, without further ado, I will now pass the time to Mark. Mark, over to you, please.
Thanks, Tammy. Hi, everyone, and happy Lunar New Year to one and all. My name is Mark Nava. I work very closely with Prof Cedomir on the Executive MBA program here at ESSEC Business School. So this is the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA program, Asia Pacific, that we're talking about. And Prof Cedomir is the academic director of the program, which means that he is the professor who is in charge of the program. So he took the program from start and he helped to build it and has been running it ever since. I'm just going to take all of you through a really quick introduction to ESSEC Business School and to this particular program, just so that you have some context of what we're talking about today, and then I'll hand it over to Prof for his masterclass. So just a little bit about ESSEC. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, there we go. We are a French business school, but we have campuses all over the world. And we are one of the top 4 French business schools and also one of the top 8. We're also Triple Crown accredited for our programs, which means that if you do a program with us, whether you're in Europe, the US, or Asia, your degree is absolutely recognized. Okay. So as I mentioned, our headquarters is in Cergy in France, which is just outside of Paris. We also have our executive education campus in La Défense, which is the sort of central business district of Paris. And we also have campuses in Morocco and Singapore, as well as online interventions and online campuses. Okay, just a little bit about that. In terms of rankings, where this EMBA program is ranked, we're according to the Financial Times and other players like the QS World University Rankings, we are ranked amongst the best in the world for joint EMBA programs and also for a variety of other things. So why would people choose the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA? So there are a few reasons for this. The first one we would say is that, and this has been verified also by the rankings providers, and that is 65% of our classes, well, over 2014, 15, and 16 that we've tracked, have achieved some sort of career progress within 3 years. And this program is very, very diverse. I will say something about us being a small program, but I will say that in terms of diversity, pound for pound, we are probably the most diverse EMBA program in the market out there. The EMBA program also is truly personalized. There is executive coaching that helps to tailor your career support according to each individual's needs. Some of you may be in companies where you are earmarked for progression vertically, and some of you may be looking to change jobs. So everyone has different needs, and this program seeks to help each and every one of you in a customized way. The curriculum is innovative. We also have a particular focus on Asia, which I'll share with you when I just briefly go through the curriculum. And the program size is small. Now, our class usually takes about 15 to 20 every year. We do go up to 25 when we need to, as was the case with the 2021 intake. And we do this for a few reasons. Number one, it just gives you better access to your professors. it is just logical that in an average EMBA classroom that features about 60 or more participants, in a smaller class size means that you have more face time to interact with your professors one-on-one and get to ask them questions. Number two, we understand that networking is really important, but in a smaller classroom, what we can almost guarantee you is that the interactions that you'll have over the months that you were with us help to build more solid relationships, with each and every one of your fellow participants. The third part has to do with our overseas residencies as well, which I'll explain in a bit. Okay. In terms of what our cohort looks like, I'm just taking this from the last cohort that joined us, which was in October of 2021. As you can see here, that particular cohort had an average of about 40 years of age. Yeah, there were 25 of them for that particular cohort, so that was a max cohort. And in terms of work experience, they average 16. So this changes from year to year. And the average goes up or down depending on the makeup of the class. Okay. In terms of nationalities, we had a really interesting mix. We had individuals from France. Obviously, we had individuals from Singapore, but we had really interesting participants join us from countries like Finland and Azerbaijan. Of course, a lot of them live in Asia, because of the commute that it takes to attend these sorts of programs. But yeah, in terms of nationality, really, really interesting mix of individuals representing different countries. In terms of industry as well, we've had everyone from aerospace to banking, construction, and even marketing, engineering, sales, a whole bunch of different things. We also had, interestingly, our first two military pilots joined this program. One was a former pilot with the Korean Air Force, and one is a current pilot with the Republic of Singapore Air Force. So really, really interesting mix of industries. We're not the sort of school or program that caters to just one industry. And that diversity is really important to us. Our male to female diversity as well is really important to us, and we're happy to say that on average we've done about 35 to 40%, or we've had 35 to 40% female representation throughout the years, and it's something that we're proud of and something that we seek to continue as the years go on, and that's something that I'll share about a bit more later. Okay, oops. Okay, so as I mentioned, we had participants from different parts of the world. That's a quick snapshot there. So if you're looking at potentially doing an EMBA for us, there are a few things that you need to know. We typically look for anyone who has, professionals rather, who have at least 8 years of experience. But as I mentioned, the last cohort averaged 16, and there are cohorts that will average 14 or 15. But generally speaking, you should be a senior executive, mid-level to senior executive with at least 8 years of experience. And it would be good if you could have 3 years of managerial experience as well. Managerial experience also pertains to project management and not just people management. We do require a good degree from a reputable institution. There are processes in place, or there is a process in place for those of you who have non-degrees, but that's something that you would need to chat with me about in order for us to determine whether it's something that's available to you. Okay, good track record in the workplace, in your career is of course important, and yes, you should be able to speak English. If you're attending this, chances are you speak English already, because this is being done in English, and the program for us, even in France, is taught in English. Okay. So just a bit about the program at a glance. So it is a 15-month program. It starts in October of every year and it ends in December of the following year. It's a modular format, as all EMBA programs are, which means that it's not a full-time program, but you come once a month for almost every month over the 15-month period. And I'll illustrate that better when we look at the calendar. As mentioned here, we have an average of 15 years of professional work experience. This is taken across all our cohorts, not just the last one. And over the years, we've had over 20 nationalities join our program. The average age is 39. Again, this goes up and down. So I'd say between 39 and 41 would be the top of the bell curve. And those are just some average figures for you to consider. We do take individuals who are as young as say 30 or 31. It's not the norm, but we do have individuals who do represent that sort of age bracket. Okay, in terms of course, as we said, this curriculum is innovative. Just bear in mind that there is the ESSEC and Mannheim Europe program. So if you do go on our website, make sure that you're looking at the correct version of the program, because the two programs differ slightly, but they all lead to the same eventual qualification. Okay. When this program was brought to Singapore, it was calibrated for the Asian market, and also to update a few things to ensure that we were looking at topics that were relevant today and in the future. So as you can see here, one of the first clusters that of topics that we look at is understanding Asia and new business models in Asia. Whenever we look at topics in an Asian context, it's not to say that we only look at Asia. Fundamentals are always universal, best practices are international, but once we look at different the concepts of a different topic, we then look at how things are applied in Asia, and the challenges and the nuances that come with that. The other broad fields include harnessing the digital tide, which is basically how you take your products and services to market using digital interventions, digital platforms. What it means for a B2C versus a B2B, using different types of interventions. We look at innovation and managing the growth, managing the change that comes with that, and how we do that from a strategic perspective. We also delve into leadership and personal development, but not just from the point of view of just pure leadership. We also look at it from the perspective of responsibility, ethics, CSR. And how we can tie those things into helping our participants become not just better leaders, but more responsible leaders. There is also the Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Sustainability project, which is a project that starts at the beginning of the program and it runs all the way to the end of the program. It is the single largest piece within the curriculum. So this program started out this project started out many years ago as a pure entrepreneurship project, but as the years have gone by, the faculty have rationalized that not everyone wants to become just an entrepreneur, and that innovation and sustainability were also very important factors, because many of our participants are also entrepreneurs who start projects within their own companies. As mentioned before, and something that I will expand on a little bit after this, is the overseas residencies. So there's one to Mannheim Business School, which is our partner business school in this EMBA. So the ESSEC and Mannheim Executive MBA is known as that because of our partnership with Mannheim. And Mannheim are arguably the top business school in Germany. If you qualify fully for this program, you will walk and you participate in it and you graduate from it. You will graduate with 2 MBA degrees, one from ESSEC Business School and one from Mannheim Business School. Okay, the other residency is to a partner university in Asia. Usually it's Waseda University in Japan, but this does tend to change from time to time. There is also an online course which Mannheim administers, which is part of the entire program. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. Okay, so this is what the structure and the schedule of the program typically looks like. So this is the indicative schedule for the upcoming intake in October of 2022. So as you can see there, the weeks that are highlighted in red are the weeks that are done in Singapore. So as I mentioned, there are 15 months, right? October to December. There are 2 term breaks. The entire program is split into 3 terms. So the first term runs October of 22 to January of 2023. So you'll come once a month for each of those. In February of 2023, there's a term break, so there are no classes there. That's usually because it's in and around the Chinese New Year period. So the second term runs March to June. And as you can see there, June, the week in June highlighted in dark blue there is the week that we typically go to Mannheim Business School. And then there is a term break in July and August. So that usually coincides with the European summer holidays. And the final term is September to December. Now, as I mentioned, you saw the week in blue in June, and if you look in November, there's a dark blue week there as well. So that's usually for our Asian residency, where we go to a partner university in Asia. Now, as you might have noticed, there's a greenish blue sort of window between June and August. That window is for the Mannheim online program. There are no live classes there. The Mannheim online course is an e-learning package. So the learning comes in the form of readings and pre-recorded videos by Mannheim professors, and there are also assignments to do. So from feedback, it takes roughly about 2 to 4 hours to complete each program, and there's 6 topics to do. The ideal scenario would be to have our participants do, 1 topic per week, but many will try and finish it all at the front or procrastinate and do it all towards the end, and that's okay. So it's your own time and your own discretion. Just need to finish that in 6 weeks, but there are no live classes during that time. I know that's a lot of information to take in, and I'd be very happy to speak with any of you who'd like to run through your profiles and also to chat more about the details of these sorts of issues. Okay, so that is the calendar in a nutshell. In terms of the application process, as I mentioned, the next intake is in 2022. So the first step would be to have an initial discussion with me, as well as Prof Cedomir, which is something that we'll set up. And at the same time, to do your application via our online portal. You can find information there via our website, listed there. So once the application is done, if you're shortlisted to attend the admissions jury, we will inform you of that. The admissions jury is the full and final interview. And then once you've gone through that, then the decision will be made by the committee, to decide whether you are accepted or not. And then if you are accepted, the offer and acceptance is issued along with scholarships that have been granted or awarded. So the program fees for the 2022 intake is at $97,000. Now, if you're looking at doing an EMBA in Singapore, we definitely represent the best value for money in terms of all the top programs here. But at the same time, we still recognize that it is a significant investment. It's a significant commitment, and ESSEC is still committed to helping our participants to try and get through this as best they can. So there are scholarships available. Now, some of these are time sensitive. The first mover and early bird scholarships are time sensitive. If you'd like more information on that, I'd be happy to help answer your questions in a personal one-to-one introductory call. We also have scholarships to recognize our place in Singapore. The diversity scholarship is a really interesting one, and that depends on your background in terms of your gender, your ethnicity, your nationality, and your work background. So that's available too. And then, as we mentioned, because we want to continue encouraging women to invest in their progression, invest in their path forward, we have recently introduced a scholarship recognizing women leaders and also women who are driven to become leaders in the future. Okay. And that's really it in a nutshell. Again, I know there's a lot of information to go through there, and I'd be happy to help clarify and rationalize things better in a one-to-one call. I'll still be available here towards the end of the presentation if any of you want to ask some questions. There's some contact details on the screen now. I see we have a question. Oh, sorry. Short period held in France. Okay, Jolene, thanks for the question. Whether or not we go to France is very dependent on a year-to-year basis, but there is a period of 1 week in Germany. So will we go to Germany with the 2022 intake? I would say it's highly likely. For the previous sessions, the previous cohorts where they were in the midst of COVID, we've had to sort of change the schedule a bit. I'm quite happy to announce that the intake that came in 2020 is going to Germany in March. So there is some that is going to happen. Okay. Yeah, I'm being told that I'm running out of time. Sorry for that. I am going to hand it over to Prof now to take it through to the next stage. And yeah, look forward to speaking and meeting with you guys soon. Over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. We are working on this program for quite a long time, but I always discover some new things. So thank you for the nice presentation and everything that you have indicated here. I would like to thank also HeadHunt for all this experience. We are in the classroom, so you can see the numbers which are behind me. So there's numbers for the students in order to take their seats. As you know, we are now in a safe distance protocol. So in that case, they cannot sit nearby. So in this classroom, HeadHunt, they made a studio. You cannot see the studio, but it is fantastic. So I can see all the people who are here. Thank you very much for setting up this. We didn't have this experience before, so we like this. As Mar has indicated, I am the academic director of the program, so launched the program more than 10 years ago, but I'm also a professor. And I'm teaching geopolitics. So for geopolitics, we can have an awful number of items or topics to talk about. So it can be, for instance, the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. It can be a persistent crisis that we have in the South China Sea, or it can be something else. But for this meeting, for this webinar, we have chosen a topic that is existing for more than 2 years now, which is the COVID-19 pandemic. And the question is to know how can we treat this either from the political or from the geopolitical point of view, because it is a very important topic today, a very dramatic topic, because we are crossing millions of people who are dead now, and we have even more millions of people who are infected. So this is on the mind of everyone. So would it be the people in this classroom or would it be people worldwide? We are all obsessed and we are all worried by that. So the question is to know how can we treat this, this topic? And I see 4 possibilities or 4, let's say, main ways how to look at this. The first one is to consider that the COVID-19 is a health problem. And as a health problem, we have to come up with health solutions to this problem. So that's one way. The second way to look at it is that it is a political problem. So the political problem means how do governments, how do political parties, how the society as a whole is treating the problem that we have with the COVID-19. The third problem, the third possibility is to consider that the COVID-19 is a business problem. So the business problem means that looking at companies, how do companies treat this, especially when we are talking about the supply chains and the disruption of the supply chains today. And the last one is international relations. Is COVID-19 a topic of international relations, that is, relations between countries? So these are the 4 elements. We will concentrate on the last one, but before that, I will go through the others, just in order to eliminate all the options that can exist there. The first point that we have, is it a health problem, is to look at one concept that is very well known in politics, but also in business, which is called the black swan phenomenon. So the black swan means that it is something that it is unpredictable, that it is something that we cannot avoid. We don't know the consequences and we don't know how to cure it. So if we consider that the COVID-19 is a black swan phenomenon, in that case, we can expect that all countries, all corporations, all people, they will come up with their individual solutions to this, because there is no blueprint, there is no rule how to cure this, if it is a black swan. The other option is to say it is not a black swan issue. So how can we defend that it is not a black swan issue. In fact, the coronavirus is not new. We used to have coronaviruses before, so it was called the SARS or it was called the MERS. So the question is to know, did the different countries prepare for the next surge? That is for this one, that is for the COVID-19. Or did they ignore what happened a few years back and they did not have contingency plans if something of this magnitude happens? So this is a very interesting approach, which is putting in focus what are the decisions by the leaders and by the decision makers. Can they just say, it is not my responsibility, nobody could prevent this? Or we can also say, in fact, it is not. We already had something before, which was very close to what we have today, and it was possible to prevent it. So this is the first question. So now, if it is a health problem, and if it is purely a health problem, in that case, the whole world will come up with the same solution because the virus is the same worldwide. And we wouldn't have this cacophony of measures. If you look at the situation concerning China, they put in lockdown entire cities, they put in lockdown entire regions. If necessary, they will put in lockdown the whole country. So this is the zero case scenario. And they are sticking to this. And they're very brave to stick to this, especially when we consider what are the consequences and the number of people who are involved in this and the number of tests, the number of investigations and so on. However, there are very few countries that are sticking to this. Maybe you have noticed that Australia has announced that they will open Australia for international tourists beginning by the 21st of February. So it means that they have abandoned this strategy of zero cases. In many other countries, they are saying, no, we have to live with the virus, no more lockdowns, no more, let's say, restrictions that we have there. We will have more and more cases. We will triple the number of cases if necessary. But since the variant that we have today, which is Omicron, is not so harmful, in that case, we just have to live with this. But what is the point is to say that if it was a purely health problem, we would come up with common solutions. We wouldn't have this kind of disparity. We wouldn't have this kind of opposing situations from one country to the other, when one country is saying, we want to do this, and another country is saying, we want to do something else. Another point that is important here, if it is a health issue, is the question of vaccines. So for the vaccines, maybe you remember, we have two types of vaccines. So we have a new method, which is the mRNA, which is looking at the transmission. And the second one is, let's say, the classical vaccine method. So the classical vaccine method has notably been used by China concerning Sinovac and Sinopharm, and concerning the others, Pfizer, Moderna, etc., they're using the new technology. So again, if the virus is the same, and if it is a health problem, maybe there would be just one type of vaccine. Why should we have several types of vaccines? So these are the questions that we can have in mind if we consider that it is a health problem. Second option, this is a political problem. So the political problem is looking at how the different countries have managed the issue. Did they follow recommendations coming from science, or did they adopt some political measures? So for instance, if they are following the indications which are coming from science, there is a problem because the scientific community is not having the same opinion about what is the origin of this and how to treat this. So it means that the political leaders are usually choosing who are the scientists that they will consult. And very often, they do not consult the scientists that have sometimes another opinion. So obviously, the others will be labeled as conspiracy theories or something that we will not look at. But the point is that the scientific community, as usual, doesn't have a common standpoint. We can have diverse opinions, and it's up to the political leaders to choose which one is more adaptable for them. The second thing is, from the political point of view, what should we sacrifice in managing the COVID-19? And there was a huge discussion here in Singapore, but also in the other countries, concerning lives versus livelihoods. So lives means you want to save lives. So you want to save lives, you want to reduce the number of people going to the hospital, you want to reduce the number of the people who are going to IC units, etc., etc. In that case, lockdown for everyone. And the second option is livelihoods. So livelihoods is, what do you do with the people who are locked in their home for, let's say, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months? Will they continue to receive their salary? And who will pay this salary? So in that case, we have an economic dimension, and maybe the country itself will lose its position on the global market if they are continuing with this kind of situations. So from the political point of view, they have to make, let's say, trade-offs. What is the most desirable? What is the most interesting option that they can have at this very moment? I will give you just one example concerning this political situation that involved the #1 tennis player, Novak Djokovic, when he went to Australia. Maybe you were aware about that. So he went to Australia and he has not been given the possibility to participate to Australia Open. So the question again was it a health problem? Was it a political problem, or was it something else? Because he went there. Obviously, he had the visa in order to enter Australia, but the visa has been canceled when he came to Australia because he was not vaccinated. So out of this, there was so much, I would say, buzz about this decision that they on the social media, you can have thousands of people who were saying it's the right thing to not let him enter Australia, or it was a bad thing not to let him enter Australia. Or is it a question of timing? Because if on the 21st of February, Australia is opening the borders, in that case, it is not a question of health. It is a question of political decision. When do you open the borders and what do you accept as a proof of vaccination or non-vaccination when you are coming there? So this was one of the main events last month when the whole world was looking at the saga, what is happening with Novak Djokovic going to Australia. So this is for the political decision. The business decision, and after that we'll move to the international relations. Concerning the business decisions, we can have several dimensions of it. The first one, is there an opportunity for business during COVID-19? That is, can we make money on this? And apparently, the companies that were manufacturing the tests, the companies that were manufacturing the vaccines, or the companies that are manufacturing the drugs, how to cure COVID-19, are making tons of money. So in that case, we have to see who will be the first on the market and who will reap all the benefits from the market. Can you fight with the other corporations on the market? Is it ethical to fight on this? Who is paying for the vaccines? Because if at the end of the day, it is the state that is paying for the vaccines, in that case, it will be a negotiation between the pharmaceutical laboratory and the state. and not between the pharmaceutical laboratory and the consumer. So we have plenty of questions that we can ask about the profitability of the COVID-19 management, whatever the drug is and whatever the vaccine is. And the second dimension that we have concerning business is the supply chain disruption. As you know, the whole world used to manufacture in China. And since China has locked down the whole country, it was impossible for the companies, especially American companies, but also coming from the other countries, to get the semi-finished goods or to get the finished goods coming from China. So this has launched many discussions in the corporate boards in order to see what are the consequences of that. So one consequence can be deglobalization. So it means that we will not try to manufacture abroad. So this is one option. The second one will be reshoring. So in that case, you are bringing it back to your country. You used to, let's say Apple used to assemble its iPhones in China, and they're bringing it back to the United States. So this may be one of the options. They didn't choose this one, but it can be one of the options. The third one is decoupling. So in that case, you don't cooperate with China anymore. And the last one is bifurcation. It's that you are using parallel paths and you will not join anymore in the future. So these are the options that exist for the corporations worldwide. So far, they have opted for a, let's say, an intermediate situation, which is China +1 strategy. So the China +1 strategy means that they continue to be in China, but they are also operating or assembling or manufacturing in another country. So in that case, they have a backup plan. They have the opportunity to shift the manufacturing to the other country just in case if China locks down again. So among the countries that have benefited very much from China +1, obviously we can expect Mexico because it is close to the United States. But here in Asia, one country that benefited from this very much is Vietnam. So Vietnam is a bordering country to China, and many companies are moving to Vietnam in order to have this China +1 strategy. So there's all the options that they exist besides international relations. So I will just take a few minutes concerning international relations, and after that, we will look at the questions because in geopolitics, we are always looking at the questions coming from the audience because these questions are permitting us to bounce back and also to explore some of the avenues that maybe we did not plan to talk about, or the avenues that are of most interest to the audience. So for the international relations, what is happening? The big question in international relations is there a country which is responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic? This is the most important question that we have in international relations. And for that, we can have two answers. Either there is a country which is responsible for that, either there is no country which is responsible for that. If we take the first option, there is a country that is responsible for that. In that case, we should also look at the consequences of it. So what is the consequence? Let's imagine that China has been identified as a country which is responsible for the pandemic 19. In that case, all the other countries can say China has to pay for that. So how will China pay for that? It is a question of compensation. And we used to have this after the Second World War. We used to have this when one country is taking the responsibility for something involving the other countries. So the point is to know, is one country responsible for that? And second question, who can declare that one country is responsible for that? So in that case also, we can have two options. Either the country itself takes the responsibility and they are saying, we are responsible for that, and we want to settle the problem. So in that case, we don't need to negotiate, we don't need to look at the responsibility and so on. Fine. Second option, the country doesn't accept the responsibility. So in that case, it will be either one other country accusing this one, or on the international level. On the international level, there is one institution, and this institution is the WHO, the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is one of the organizations of the United Nations. And since they are dealing with the health issues, and even today, they are very important in the health issues. How are they important? For instance, they are giving the list of the vaccines. So if in the list of the vaccines you have the Sinovac, the Sinopharm, or the Sputnik coming from Russia, in that case, all the other countries have to accept these vaccines. Another way how they are looking at this is that they are also giving the advisories. So they are advising the whole world. For instance, right now on this very date, on the 8th of February, they are warning all the countries, don't open up easily because the pandemic is not over yet. So the WHO is in charge of this. They are exchanging information, and this is how we know what is happening in Israel, what is happening in some other countries. As you know, the WHO has sent a delegation to China in order to investigate about the origin of the pandemic. Is China responsible for that or not? They came back from China, and the answer is we don't know. So in that case, there is no clear responsibility about what is happening there. So the WHO is not accusing one country. The WHO doesn't say that China is responsible for that. As you know, in the past, when the President Trump was the leader in the United States, he used to call the virus the Wuhan virus or the China virus. So from the American or from the Trump's perspective, it was clearly a Chinese responsibility, but not from the WHO. So if the WHO doesn't declare that one country is responsible, in that case, this country is not responsible. It doesn't prevent the other countries to accuse. And this is what is happening very often from the Western countries, that they continuously accuse China of mishandling the situation, not disclosing all the information that they have about that. But from the Chinese point of view, if I am looking at what my colleagues in China are doing, they are linking it with some other issues. So they believe that some Western countries are using this pandemic 19 as a scapegoat or as an excuse in order to scold China for whatever the reason that they want. So it means that it is entering the international relations situation or relationship, because COVID-19 is becoming just another issue, just another contention, bone of contention that we have between the Western countries and China. And the last point that we can have concerning the international relations is the diplomacy, and especially the vaccine diplomacy. 1 year ago, just 1 year ago, we didn't have enough vaccines worldwide, and there were very few countries manufacturing them. So all the other countries were scrambling in order to get the vaccines for them, for their population, etc. So they were all fighting in order to get them, and the United States was very important in this field. They have put so much money on the table, and they are saying, you are giving us the vaccines because we want to protect our population first. So at the end of the day, there were countries without vaccines at all, especially if you are going to Africa. If you have very low vaccination rates, it is not because they don't want to be vaccinated, it's because they don't have the vaccines. So the vaccine diplomacy, when the Russians and the Chinese have been the first on the market, they were saying, look, we have enough vaccines for ourselves, but we will also provide vaccines for the others. The question is, who are the others? Do you prioritize? And on which criterion do you prioritize? So obviously, the other countries are accusing Russia and China to prioritize according to their own political agenda in order to help their own country, their own friends, rather than to help everyone. So last year, the vaccine diplomacy was very strong because we didn't have enough vaccines for the whole world. Today, the situation is a little bit different, but I remember the situation last year where the vaccines have been used as a weapon for diplomacy by saying, if you do this, you get the vaccine. If you don't do it, you don't get the vaccine. But it would be wrong only to accuse Russia and China. The United States was doing the same thing, because they were saying, we will take the vaccines for ourselves, first of all, and if we have some leftovers, in that case, we will supply the other countries. And again, the same question, which countries? They cannot supply the whole world. So they will also prioritize some countries that they want to supply. We had the same situation coming from the European Union. Today, we have more vaccines that we need in the European Union. So they are also prioritizing when they are giving the vaccines to the other countries. So I would like to stop here for the moment. So we have seen several options linked to the COVID-19. So the last one was with the international relations, but I will look at the Q&A in order to see if there are some questions. So in that case, I can try to answer some of them. So I am an old professor, so I cannot see very well. So I have to look at this here. Okay. So, okay. So there is Lims telling me, Dobar dan, thank you. Do you see COVID-19 being a glue to hold governments together? That is, together as humanity, mankind, we will fight COVID. Very good. So it is going back to the situation to know if it is a health problem or if it is a political problem. If it was purely a health problem, I agree with this. It will be a glue to hold everyone to band together, because we face the same problem. The virus doesn't know boundaries. The virus doesn't have a passport. So the virus will go from one place to the other, whatever we do. So in that case, we have to be together. We have to band together because we have a common enemy. However, this did not happen. So it means that many governments don't consider that COVID-19 is only a health problem. They consider that it is also a political problem. So I cannot see in the future that they will band together if they did not do it for the last 2 years. So we are still in the situation when they will scramble for individual decisions rather than to look for something which is common to them. The second question from the same member of the audience: do you see COVID-19 being a divisive component, that is, USA blames China, or delays in shipping logistics causing people to point fingers and lay blame, or maybe vax versus unvax, not just personal, but political? Very good. I would say that the USA will blame China for whatever the reason is. But would it be COVID-19? Would it be the Olympic Games? Would it be bad weather? They will blame China for everything, and they will point fingers to China for everything. So sometimes there are good reasons for that. Sometimes we are just wondering what are the reasons why they will do this. Maybe you remember when there was a situation when President Trump was in the US, everyone was saying, wow, it's so bad to have Trump. He is putting in danger the relationship with China. If Biden becomes president, it will be a honeymoon between China and the US. Did we see the honeymoon? No, I didn't see the honeymoon. The situation is even worse today. So in that case, I cannot see that the COVID-19 is a fundamental divisive component. It is one of the divisive components, and they will continue to have this. What I see at the end is very interesting, vax versus unvax. And this is happening in many countries. It is happening today in Canada when you have the truckers practically paralyzing Ottawa, which is the federal capital in the country. And I do forecast that in all countries, there would be a rising tension between vaccinated and non-vaccinated people. The non-vaccinated people, they represent a small minority now in all countries, but it is, I would say, a resilient minority. These people, they don't want to be vaccinated. Whatever you do, they will not be vaccinated. So we have millions of people in one country who are not vaccinated. And I have seen this in France, but maybe also here in Singapore or the other countries. There would be a question, if the unvaccinated people go to ICU or to the hospital, should they pay for that? This is a very big question because you are putting in danger the solidarity between people. Up to now, the doctors are saying, I cure everyone. I don't want to know how did you get this disease and what is the origin of the disease. But now, with this vax and unvax, we have rising tensions, and the majority would say, why should we pay for the people who are stubborn, for the people who don't want to be vaccinated? So I think that this question will be a question for the future. We still have millions of people who do not want to be vaccinated, and there would be rising tensions, maybe also motivated by the governments. So the governments can also pull the narrative, which is saying that the unvaccinated people are putting in danger everything that we do in the country, and we have to do something with them. But I believe that it is opening plenty of very big problems concerning the solidarity that may exist in the country. I see another question here. Who is the winner for the COVID-19 vaccine diplomacy? From Daniel Lee. Daniel, if you have asked the question 1 year before, I would say that China would be the winner. But if you are looking at the situation today, when the majority of people in Western countries, but also in some other Asian countries, is already vaccinated, it means that this issue is not anymore a primary issue in those countries. However, it is still a primary issue in some Asian countries, but also especially in Africa. So I believe that there would be a scramble for Africa. And in that case, the three, let's say, blocks or four blocks, we have the United States, we have the European Union, you have Russia, and you have China. And these four actors will come to Africa and will offer vaccines to Africa, and especially if they're offering vaccines for free, and if there are enough vaccines for everyone, it will be hard for the different governments in Africa to refuse when they don't have the possibility to get these vaccines. So I don't consider that the vaccine diplomacy is still a dominant issue everywhere, but for Africa, definitely. So for Africa, we will continue to have this. I have another question from Bob Tan. So the question is, do you see this pandemic as a false flag to create a fog of war from hard power buildup? Wow, Bob, this is a very difficult question, because first of all, we have to see if the issue has been deliberately introduced by one country. In that case, we can talk about creating some false flag. So let's imagine conspiracy theory. It has originated from the United States, and you have probably heard about these stories. It has originated from China. This is the most dominant narrative that we have today. Or it is coming from another unknown country, and we don't know how it proliferated abroad. So in order to have a false flag, there must be an intention. So the intention is coming from one country, and you want to, let's say, mask, and you want to avoid something. So for instance, let's imagine that there are some tensions. And this is not the Ukraine-Russia tension. It is here, the South China Sea. So we can say we have tension in South China Sea, or we can have tensions in the Taiwan Strait. And in that case, you have the COVID-19 coming as a fog in order to avoid all these problems. I would agree with you on this part if there is an intention, which is a deliberate intention, which is coming from one country. For the moment, I don't have, let's say, enough evidence in order to propose this, but I agree with you. This is a possibility that can exist. I have another question. So from Wailing Tay. So since COVID-19 affects so many countries, economies, and lives, why is it that some countries are not forthcoming with the research data or statistics on COVID-19, that is publishing data on a certain vaccine's efficiency? So we have this question about sharing on information. And the usual channel for sharing the information is the WHO. So this is where you go to. So you are going to WHO, you have the information, and you are sharing it with everyone else. So in that case, we can say that information is available, everybody gets the same information, and we can plan for the future. Now, concerning the number of cases, concerning the number of people who are dead, concerning the number of people who are in the hospitals, we have information. What is the problem? The problem is that very often we impute to the COVID-19 the origin of the disease or the origin of the problem that one person is having when entering in the IC unit. But as you know, there are many cases of comorbidity. So the comorbidity means that maybe this person already had one existing problem, and maybe COVID-19 is just exaggerating the problem. So in fact, maybe the COVID-19 is not the real origin, but we are imputing to the COVID-19 the origin of everything. So if you are tested positive, in that case, the origin is the COVID-19. And it happens that in some countries, they don't have sophisticated investigating methods in order to find out exactly what is the origin. So this is why for some countries, we believe that there is an exaggeration, and in other countries, we believe that there is an understatement concerning the number of cases or concerning the number of people who are going to the hospitals. So they're sending information to the WHO, but the WHO, they don't investigate. They just gather the information which is coming from the different countries, like Interpol. They're just gathering this and they're sharing it with all the rest. So this is why it can be quite difficult to answer this question. Another question for Wei-Ling Chen. What do you think is the responsibility of private companies, leaders, and individuals as we move into this next phase of COVID-19 amidst this geopolitical climate? Okay. The question of responsibility is on several levels. First of all, on the political level. And you can be sure that after the pandemic, when everything is settled, if you have people that you love and who died because of the COVID-19, you will knock on the door of the government and you will ask the government, did you take the appropriate measures in order to save my beloved ones? We are still in the midst of the pandemic. So we are not putting the question of responsibility on the table. But in some countries, it already happened. People are suing the Brazilian president, Bolsonaro. People are suing the former French Minister of Health because they're accusing her of not treating the disease or not treating the pandemic well. And I expect that when all this is over, there will be more and more people knocking on the door and they will ask for the responsibility because their beloved ones have suffered. So this kind of empathy, this kind of love you cannot avoid. So this passion will probably come up afterwards. Now, for the corporations, we have to see what is the responsibility. I remember the situation, it was last year. The corporations and the governments, they have promised us, if you are vaccinated, it's over for you. Meaning you can travel, you can live your life, you don't need to wear the mask, you don't need to do anything, provided that you are vaccinated. After that, they said, you need a second vaccine. And after that, they said, you need a booster. So now the question is that many people are wondering, what is happening? What did you promise us before? And what is the situation today? Is there a problem with the corporations? Is there a problem concerning the scientific results of the corporations when they tested the results of the vaccines? Because the situation that we know today doesn't correspond to something that they have promised in the past. So this kind of responsibility, would it be a corporate or political responsibility, will be certainly something that they will have to work on. I don't see questions anymore. No? Do we have some more questions? No? Okay, so if we don't have more questions, we go back to my HeadHunt friends who are here with me, and they will handle over this, please.
Thank you, Prof Cedomir, for this very insightful snippet of what the EMBA program would entail. We hope you've enjoyed today's session, and we will now invite you to participate in the feedback poll. Please give us your honest feedback so that we can further improve on our Master's Experience series. The feedback poll should be popping up on your screen, so please take a few moments to share with us your observations. Hey, we are experiencing a little bit of a technical glitch, but we should be able to continue. Yeah, if the feedback poll doesn't pop up, it's all right. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us anyway. This Master's Experience series is brought to you by HeadHunt in partnership with ESSEC Business School. We appreciate your feedback. It's very important to us. It will only take you a few moments, so please share with us your observations. Thank you so much for taking time to do this feedback poll and for joining us today. This Master's Experience series is brought to you by HeadHunt in partnership with ESSEC Business School. Please join us this Friday, 11th of February, on the topic of Flexi Masters, a lifelong learning pathway presented by Center for Professional and Continuing Education, or PACE at NTU. Do sign up early on our website, postgrad.sg. With that, we will wrap up today's session. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you this Friday. Have a good day. Bye.